What's shakin' bacons? Before we get launched into the review, I just wanted to let you guys know that I do finally have a Patreon. It is up. I will have the link in the description down below. Patreon is a great platform where you can help me give more content to you and help improve the quality and the amount of content that I can provide by supporting me directly. That way I don't have to worry about all the BS that goes on with YouTube and copyright and being family friendly and monetization and all that. And if you do support me on Patreon as a patron, you do get extra goodies and things that normally you would not have access to if you were not a patron. Like, you'll get access to me directly through a Discord server. You will get my movie rating scale that I use to work on movie reviews. You'll get potentially producer credit in my videos. So please, if you're interested and you want to consider supporting me, I would be extremely appreciative and grateful. My end goal is to make as much content at as high of a quality as I can for you guys, and this would go such a long way toward helping me. Even just $1 helps. Seriously, it really helps. So if you are interested in checking out my Patreon page, please feel free to check it out below. And in the meantime, on to the news.
What's shakin' bacons? Today we're going to talk about the movie that just came out, A Quiet Place, which is written and directed by John Krasinski, otherwise known as Jim from The Office. He's determined to prove himself as a director and as a writer, as he fulfilled both roles, and as an actor in this movie to demonstrate the range of talent he has. A Quiet Place, of course, is a story about people living in a world that is a post-apocalyptic or other kind of post-traumatic event in which creatures that hunt based solely on audible input have been attacking and killing anything that makes noise. And this movie is the story of one family in particular as they attempt to survive the mother giving birth and the events that unfold around it in this world. So whatever you do, you cannot make a sound.
Alright, we're going to return to normal volume. As usual in my reviews, I am going to talk about non-spoilers in my review first, and I will give you fair warning when we get to spoilers toward the end. The movie has these characters striving so hard to not make any sounds, because if they do, they will immediately be killed. It's not like they have a lot of reaction time. These creatures move unbelievably fast. They're super sensitive to hearing. So if these people make anything louder than barely a breath of a whisper and they communicate in sign language, these things are going to just kill them to death. Now, this movie was way better than I thought it would be. In fact, so far this year, it's probably one of the best movies that has come out. John Krasinski really does shine in showcasing his talent as a director, a writer, and an actor in this film. It's very impressive. I didn't know that he was that talented, and I think that this was a great way for him to be able to break out of the mold and like the stereotype that he's just Jim from The Office. Because that's what he's primarily known for, is being Jim from The Office. Now, a lot of people are saying that this movie is a horror movie. I disagree with that. I think it's more of a thriller. I personally am terrified of horror movies. I wouldn't have been able to watch it if it was a horror movie, but you are definitely on the edge of your seat the whole time. There's an intense feeling of tension that is just pervasive throughout this film, throughout the characters. The acting was incredible, despite the fact that they could not speak. Every single one of the actors was phenomenal. They conveyed so much through their eyes, through their gestures, through the sheer emotion that they were able to convey visually. And that also goes for the children actors. Noah Jupe and Millicent Simmons were phenomenal as well. Most of the times child actors are not that great, and that's not any fault of theirs. Part of it is the fact that they don't have enough experience yet, they don't have enough practice. So usually there's some issue to be found with child actors. That was not the case for these two. Noah Jupe really stood out in terms of the emotions he was conveying. Millicent Simmons was the eldest daughter of the couple, and you really ended up feeling for her, for Noah, for the mom and the dad in this family. And you guys should know this is a very emotional movie in that you are not only feeling terror for these people, but you're also kind of feeling a sense of terror within the theater as you're watching. And it's not often, I think, that a movie can make you feel that way. We were in the theater and there was people eating snacks and popcorn, and because there is almost no noise in this movie, because everyone's quiet, and the idea is you need to be quiet or you're gonna get dead real fast, the people eating their popcorn just kind of slowly put their popcorn away. People weren't eating or drinking. It was so quiet in the theater that when the theater's overhead vent kicked on, I was like because it startled me so much. And in fact, when the first actual noise in the film happened, and it wasn't even a scary sound, the guy sitting in the row in front of me went and he jumped so bad that he hucked his phone down the theater and he had to go retrieve his phone. And I felt bad for laughing at him because all of us jumped. Like, you could see and hear the whole theater jump. But I mean, this guy just whipped his phone. Which was really funny. But we were all too intimidated to make a sound because we were so drawn into the movie. And that is a very difficult thing to do, particularly in terms of story, or to have you taken so out of yourself and placed yourself in the world that the director and the storyteller have created that you feel as though you're there. And I mean, we were dead silent, man. There was a couple times when I jumped and I put my hands over my mouth, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very nervous almost the whole time because it was one of those movies that was very bittersweet and you don't know whether or not they're going to survive. You know, it's up in the air, and right off the bat, the movie sets the tone that, hey, they may not survive. And so the whole time you're watching with bated breath, and you're trying to be quiet so the things don't sense them. And it is a remarkable skill that is taken to evoke that sense of feeling out of an audience. I was so nervous during this movie, in fact, that I was like, I had a death grip on my husband's knee just to calm myself down because I don't do well with thrillers or scary movies. At the end, I was so nervous and my palms were so sweaty that I soaked through his jeans, and we got up afterward. He was like, why are my jeans wet? He's like, you sweat through my jeans. What's wrong with you? I get nervous, okay? The story was great. It did have some plot holes. I don't think that there is really any story in which you can't find plot holes. This one had a couple that were really the main reason why I deducted anything from my rating of it, just because they were such large plot holes that I was like, how would they not have figured that out by now? But plot holes aside, you are able to buy into that full suspension of disbelief, like I said, because the storytelling and the filmography is so great. There is such poeticism in the filmography and in the acting of all involved in this movie. If Krasinski wanted to prove his acting chops, he hit the ball out of the park with this film. The characters were strong. The movie was not predictable at all. There was no cringe. All of us in the theater were Google-eyed at the screen the entire time as it played. Like, you are engrossed straight from the beginning, and there are a lot of details in this film. It's very symbolic. You see some background of what has happened, and it goes by a little too quickly for you to process immediately, but you do get some kind of background. I will admit that I was left wishing that I had more information about the creatures and how they arrived in this reality and in this setting. That is not really covered. You're only focusing in this film on a very short window of time that is experienced by this set group of people. And I am so glad as well that Krasinski did not follow established, played out, and at this point cliched trope of, hey, we've got a family and we're gonna band together with other survivors and maybe we can survive as a community because kumbaya, my lord, kumbaya. And they didn't do that, and I was very happy to see that because it was refreshing to watch a small nucleus of people, how they survived, how they prepared, how they handled these situations, and their inner strength, especially the strength of the mom. Holy crap. The shit this woman goes through in this movie, I was like, girl, you strong. You are goals. How did you even manage to get through that? That's insane. The music was wonderful as well. All of the choices made for the music, for when there should be music and when there shouldn't be, were made perfectly. I had not a single complaint about any of the music. the sounds in the film ended up attaining such a high level of importance due to the fact that they were so verboten for these people. You really paid attention more to the lack of sound than you would otherwise. I think what just really impresses me the most is that this was a movie in which there is very little said, but there is so much that is said. You know what I'm saying? There were some issues with this movie, I'm not going to lie. As I mentioned before, there's a couple plot holes, and I don't want to discuss most of them because they would spoil the movie if you have not seen it yet. A lot of the plot holes for me were just questions. And one of them that is shown in the trailer, which I feel like I can discuss because it's not a spoiler, is as you're watching the movie, you understand this is a post-apocalyptic scenario because everyone's been decimated by these things. And yet they still have electricity? The whole movie, I was just like, where are they getting their power from? There's no way that they're using a generator because it would be too loud and the creatures would come and attack them. Also, it's not shown anywhere. So the next logical thought is maybe they have wind-generated power, or perhaps they have solar power, but nothing is shown. You often get shots of the location and the area where they live, and there's nothing there to indicate that they had an alternate means of power supply. And that was just very confusing because if you're in this scenario and you somehow have power, does that mean that there are parts of society that haven't fallen to these things? Like, how are they addressing this in a larger scope, that these people are still getting electricity? And if that's the case, how are they paying for it? Because you guys know, ain't no electric company gonna be giving you power for free. Another issue that I had that is obviously seen in the trailer is that the wife is pregnant. And when you're thinking about having a child in a world where sound can kill you, you can't explain to a baby that it can't make a noise. Babies are going to cry. And of course, the process of giving birth, especially if you don't have a medical facility or a trained professional's help, is incredibly painful and incredibly dangerous. How is she going to survive without making a sound as she delivers? And of course, this is what causes a lot of the issues in the movie. It makes me wonder, I'm like, dude, why would you not use protection? If you're in this scenario, A, why would you want to bring a child into this world to begin with, especially in this scenario? Like, dude, where's your protection? There's a scene where they're raiding a pharmacy at the beginning of the movie, and that doesn't spoil anything, so I'm not spoiling anything for you here. They're in this pharmacy, and then of course later in the film you discover she's pregnant, and I'm like, you could have picked up some protection from the pharmacy while you were there. You didn't think that was a good idea? Maybe practice some other kind of method? You know what I'm saying? Why would you even allow that to happen? Overall, however, this movie was great. It was so good that you can really lose yourself in this world. You get sucked in. It's definitely worth a repeat watch. And if you're wondering whether or not you'd like to see it in the theater, I highly recommend it just because the experience alone, especially when you get that full surround sound, really amplifies the predicament that this film is portraying. So my final rating for A Quiet Place is 86%. And like I said, I only really took off points because there were some large inconsistencies in the plot. But overall, highly recommend this movie. Now I'm going to talk about spoilers because I just want to talk about the reason why I rated this movie down so much. So if you don't want to get spoiled, you best scooch. Scooch along. Come on, scooch. Because you're going to get spoiled. The biggest inconsistency in this film for me is how they figure out the creature's weakness. They find out that the creature is weak to ultra high sonic frequencies. Freaking duh. You see these newspapers and they're like, how can these creatures be subdued? They attack on sound. World is getting, like, different city locations and countries being decimated. And you get the impression that these things have essentially won because humans are in hiding. You see a paper that says, go underground. And at the very end, you find out that it's weak to high frequency noises. Like, if I knew that the world was under attack by a creature that hunted based on noise alone, the freaking first thing I would do would be to check if it was sonically vulnerable. That's like a no shit Sherlock kind of thing. And I just have to wonder, how are they not discovering until this far in that this is the creature's weakness? That alone for me is what made this this film, I had to take off points for plot holes and inconsistencies because that is such an obvious thing. It's so obvious, right? Is that just me? But that was really just my main issue. The only other thing that I had to quibble with was there's a scene where the daughter goes to the grave of the brother that died because she blames herself that he died. And for some reason, she kept the toy that ended up getting him killed. And even though she's deaf and a kid, she somehow knows precisely which wire to snip on the toy, which for some reason they left the batteries in despite it having killed one of their children. She somehow knows exactly which wire to snip so that when she turns it on, the lights come on and not the sound, in which case I'm also wondering, how would she be able to know if the sound was on or not? I just don't get how somebody who's deaf as a child would have enough technical knowledge, especially if the father did not allow her into the basement, to be able to precisely dismantle what is in effect a bomb that could kill her. The other issue I had with this film, just in terms of a little bit unrealistic, the mother delivers her child by herself. She survives thanks to the ingenuity of the father and son setting off rockets and distracting these creatures. Somehow makes like a full recovery after taking a short nap and after impaling her foot on a huge nail, gets up like it's nothing and then defends the baby and the kids against this creature, and then she like prepares for battle at the end, which I thought was a very interesting ending, and I was glad that they were going to try and get revenge on the creatures, like they were finally fighting back and going to reclaim what was theirs. Ain't no woman just gave birth and impaled her foot and is just instantly gonna get up and start fighting like it's nothing. Like, is this woman secretly a superhero? Is this part of the Marvel Extended Universe? But other than that, I thought the movie was great. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend seeing it. If you have seen it, tell me, what did you think? Did you think it was as good as I did? Did you have any issues with the film or any questions that were left unanswered? Tell me in the comments below. And of course, don't forget, check me out on Patreon, and if you want to hang out live, you can always find me on Twitch, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'll catch you later.